All right, so today we're really diving deep
Oh, yeah.
into the wonderful world of golden retrievers.
Love it. Love it.
And, we always like to do things a little differently here.
Of course. Of
So
course.
we're not just looking at any old care guide. We found this awesome list of like 30 tips, but get this, they're all written from the perspective of a golden retriever.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
So it's like we're getting the inside scoop straight from the dog's mouth.
I like it.
Like, for example, one of the things that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Do you know that golden retrievers, they can only see in like blue and yellow?
Oh, wow. I actually did not know that.
Yeah, so like when we're looking at like a bright red ball,
Yeah.
they're probably seeing something totally different.
That's so interesting. It really makes you think about like their whole experience of the world,
Totally. And there's so much more in here about their health, their behavior.
Yeah.
Like one thing I never would have thought of, there's this common household item that could be really dangerous for them.
Really?
And then on a completely different note, there's this weird food that can apparently help with constipation.
Okay, now I'm really curious.
Yeah, you'll have to wait and see.
All right. Keep me in suspense.
Well, I think a good place to start, like with any dog breed, is health.
Absolutely. It's the foundation.
Right, and these tips, they really stress keeping your golden in tip-top shape. One thing that stood out to me, they actually recommend giving them 2 cooked egg yolks every week.
Really?
Yeah, apparently it's supposed to give them a super shiny coat.
Huh. Interesting. From a nutritional standpoint, I wonder why egg yolks specifically.
Well, I think it's got to be the fat and protein content, right?
Yeah, egg yolks are packed with those.
They're like little nutrient bombs.
Yeah.
Especially good for their skin and coat.
Makes sense. And this kind of ties into the overall emphasis on a balanced diet, which is crucial for any dog, right?
For sure. And speaking of keeping them healthy, they talk a lot about regular deworming too.
Right, that's super important.
They say like monthly for the external kind and every 3 months for the internal.
Makes sense. Got to keep those pesky parasites away.
Totally. And I know it sounds gross, but it's one of those things you just can't skip.
Absolutely. It's about being proactive and preventing potential problems.
Speaking of which, another thing they highlight is dental care and fresh water.
Yeah, that's essential for preventing those nasty stones, right?
Exactly. And it's actually simpler than you might think.
Yeah, just making sure they've always got access to clean water, maybe a little dental chew here and there.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to food, there's actually a whole list of things golden retrievers are sensitive to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like chocolate, coffee, grapes, avocado.
Okay, chocolate and coffee I knew about.
Yeah, those are pretty common knowledge.
But grapes and avocado, I didn't realize those are an issue.
Yeah, and they say even raw eggs are a no-no.
Interesting. I guess it's not just about upset tummies with these things, right? Some of them can be seriously dangerous.
Absolutely, like grapes, even in small amounts, they can cause kidney failure in dogs.
Wow, that's scary.
So yeah, gotta be super careful what you let your golden munch on.
Definitely. It's better to be safe than sorry.
And they're really specific about diet, depending on the dog's age too.
Oh, how so?
They say like no meat or additional food before 8 months.
Interesting. Why is that?
I guess the little tummies just aren't ready for it yet.
Makes sense.
Like introducing meat too early can mess with their digestion and even their growth.
Wow, good to know. So puppy-specific food is the way to go for those first few months.
Exactly. Got to give them the right fuel for their growing bodies.
For sure. Now, those early months are also crucial for training, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And these tips really emphasize patience.
Right, because they're still learning.
Exactly. Golden retrievers, they're smart, but their understanding is still limited compared to ours.
Makes sense.
So repetition and positive reinforcement, that's the key, apparently.
Yeah, that's pretty standard good practice for any dog training.
Exactly. But what I found really interesting,
Yeah.
they actually connect behavior to health.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Like if your golden is suddenly biting a lot, it could actually be a sign of parasites.
Wow, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to tell us something's wrong.
That's a good point. Sometimes we forget they communicate differently.
Exactly. They can't just be like, hey, I've got worms.
Right, exactly. And that's why paying attention to their behavior is so important.
Totally. It's like a window into their well-being.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And speaking of communication, the source also talks about the importance of just talking to your dog regularly.
Oh yeah, like just chatting with them.
Yeah, it might seem silly, but it actually helps them recognize you.
Yeah, it creates that bond through familiarity.
Exactly. And golden retrievers are such social creatures. They thrive on that connection.
Absolutely. Now, while we're talking about those everyday interactions, let's move on to grooming.
Okay, yeah. That's a big part of golden retriever ownership.
Right. What kind of tips did our furry friend have for that?
Well, they recommend brushing at least twice a day.
Yeah, their fur can get pretty crazy.
Yeah, and trimming as needed, of course. And when it comes to baths, they say every 2 weeks in the summer is enough.
Interesting. Less frequent than I would have thought.
Yeah, I guess their coat is pretty good at regulating itself.
Makes sense. But what really caught my eye were these home remedies they mentioned.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like iodine for ringworm and metronidazole for mouth sores.
Huh. Interesting. I mean, it's great that people are resourceful.
Right.
But it's important to remember these are just tips, you know? Always best to check with your vet first before trying anything like that.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree. Better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly. Now, speaking of things that are good for them, I gotta say, I was surprised by one of their treat recommendations.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Yogurt.
I know, right? Who would have thought?
Apparently, it's a good source of probiotics and calcium for them.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you got to watch out for lactose intolerance, right?
Right, yeah. Some dogs can be sensitive to dairy. So, like with any new food, start small and see how they react.
Good point. Now, before we wrap up this grooming section,
Yeah.
were there any other kind of quirky tips that stood out to you?
Yeah, actually, there was one I hadn't really considered before. They talk about how golden retrievers can be really sensitive to laundry detergent.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it can be harmful if they eat it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So keeping it out of reach, super important.
Yeah, I got to puppy-proof the house.
Exactly. And they also really emphasize discouraging picky eating.
Oh, yeah. That's a battle with any dog.
Right. They say the key is to limit treats and just stick to a balanced diet.
Makes sense. You don't want them getting spoiled.
Exactly. And here's a funny little quirk. They apparently hate collars, bells, and clothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they say they much prefer comfort and freedom of movement.
Oh, that's kind of cute.
It is. It's a good reminder that what we might think looks adorable on them might not actually feel so great.
It's all about seeing things from their perspective.
Exactly. And speaking of perspective, I think we got to talk about the amazing bond between a golden retriever and their owner.
Oh, for sure. That's like the best part of having one.
The source mentions how much they love belly rubs, how it's like a sign of trust and affection.
Oh, yeah. Nothing beats a good belly rub.
And they also love sleeping with their owners, apparently.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. They're such cuddle bugs.
Totally. And you know that last line they have in this list?
Yeah.
In my limited lifespan, you are my everything.
Oh, man, that gets me every time.
Right. It's so
It
powerful.
really puts things into perspective.
It does. It reminds you just how much they love us and how important it is to cherish every moment with them.
Couldn't agree more. So, I guess the big takeaway from all of this is that really understanding a golden retriever's perspective, that's the key to building a strong bond with them.
Absolutely. It's about creating a loving and attentive environment, you know?
Right, meeting their needs, letting their personality shine through.
Exactly. Making them feel safe, happy, and loved.
That's what it's all about. So as you continue your journey with your golden retriever, I want you to think about the unique quirks you've observed in your own dog.
Yes, good point.
How do they communicate with you? What makes them happy?
Those little things are so important.
Pay attention to those details, because that's where the real magic lies.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Wow, time really flies when you're having fun talking about dogs.
It really does. But we'll be back with another deep dive soon.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep those tails wagging.
And those belly rubs coming.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your watching. If you find this video is helpful to you, please share it with your family and friends. Leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. And turn on the bell, that way you don't miss every single one of our videos. So that's for today's video. See you next time.